Happy Sunday, yogis. My name is Kelsey Delane and welcome to Sunday Sutras. Sunday Sutras is a community of people. We come together and we continue a rich dialogue about yoga, the practice, what it means to be living the philosophy of yoga in our daily life, and how we can troubleshoot, hey Nicole, some solutions around the obstacles that we encounter as yogis and as human beings. So welcome. Today we will be talking about the ego. Last week we had an awesome conversation about God, the God option in the Yoga Sutras. And I was so glad to see that yogis of a variety of backgrounds and belief systems were able to participate in that conversation. I recognize that many of you show up to watch these videos on replay, which is fantastic. And I get comments and messages after the fact about the conversation that I initiated. And it's really cool to see that these questions that I offer and these shares that I offer are impactful across the board. And so I really appreciate those of you that have reached out and either commented on videos or reached out to me personally, and I really appreciate that. In an effort to keep the conversation multifaceted, so it's not just me having one-on-one conversations with students that watch the video, I would love for more of you to be able to show up live. And I understand that 10:30 on a Sunday, sometimes that's church time or family time. So my next step will be to post a survey on this group page, Sutra Sangha, and inquire an ideal time for the majority of you to be able to show up live. And that way there can be a live conversation where questions can be posed and I can respond to them in real time. So if that sounds like something that you want to share your voice in and have your vote be heard, then definitely check out Sutra Sangha survey that I'll be posting soon and let me know your thoughts. Since last week's video, I did have a question from a student about ego and what role does the ego play? How can our ego support our practice, and how can we be mindful of ways that it can perhaps interfere, become an obstacle? In the case of this student, it appears to be a bit of an obstacle. And the word ego, just like the word God we talked about last week, it's so charged. We have so many schemas, so many mental ideas and pictures of what this thing is. And so a lot of times I like to work around that language limitation by using other words. And so in the language of yoga, ego, I like to refer to this asmita. Hey Chels. Asmita is one of the 5 kleshas. Kleshas are clouds of the mind. They are obstacles. They're the 5 afflictions of the human experience that cause suffering. And the interesting thing about the kleshas is the presence of the kleshas alone do not cause suffering. So you could have kleshas present and not be experiencing suffering, at least in the moment. However, when we experience suffering, we know that the kleshas are involved. So asmita is one of these kleshas, all of which are rooted and grow from misperception. Asmita. Asmita is the root cause of all of these other mind blockages, all of these other obstacles. And the misperception, my understanding of how asmita and avidya is misperception. The way that asmita and avidya work together is that I am misperceiving who I am as something that is not Purusha. So we've talked many times in Sunday Sutras about Purusha and Prakriti. Purusha is the unchanging part of you. Purusha is, if you want to call it your soul, your spirit, your highest self. It is that part of you that as your body changes, as your mind changes, as your circumstances change, there is an element of you-ness that remains constant throughout time. That is Purusha. And Purusha is clear and confident and joyful. That's how we know we're connected to Purusha. Asmita, on the other hand, is a klesha that can cause suffering because we're identifying, we're getting our worth and our value from identifying with something that is not Purusha. Samyoga is when we confuse similar things. And that confusion can bring suffering. It's easy to confuse things like my mind. I often confuse what happens in my mind with who I am, because I can only perceive the world through my mind. Yet my mind is a filter that can be filled with clouds, kleshas. I can experience the world through that muddy lens and misperceive reality. So if I identify who I am as my mind, that can bring a whole host of challenges. However, when we recognize that we as human beings are both Prakriti, because Prakriti is matter, Prakriti is form. So I have a body, that's Prakriti. I have a mind, that's Prakriti. I have relationships, and anything that is not Purusha, anything that changes is Prakriti. So as a human being, I'm essentially Purusha housed within Prakriti. So this unchanging element of myself is housed within a mind and within a body, and that's how I perceive reality. So this notion of ego, asmita, ego, is a delicate one because I do have a body and I do have a mind, and that is an element of me. That's the Prakriti element of me, and there's Purusha. So my experience, the way that I see a healthy sense of ego, is that I can enjoy and recognize qualities of myself that are Prakriti, like being young and healthy and mobile and able. Those are qualities that I currently possess in my Prakriti self. So I get to enjoy those qualities and I can celebrate those qualities without confusing who I am, hey Amanda, with those qualities that change. So if I have success in a venture, I can enjoy that success and separate that success from who I am. Similarly, I can make an attempt and have it not go as planned. I can fail. I can disappoint. I can have qualities like pain or limitations in my physical body, and I can recognize those things and separate them from who I am. So if you find that, in particular in the context of practicing yoga asana, where you're moving your body in postures on your yoga mat, and you find that your ego is a barrier, then my invitation to you would be to investigate what qualities you are defining yourself by. How are you conceptualizing your identity? How are you then understanding your value, your worth? And when there are things that are defining you that are Prakriti, things that you define yourself by that can change, like physical strength, hey Shayna, or health or beauty or accolades from others, status, wealth, all of those things are vulnerable to change. So when asmita, ego, or identifying with external things, when that klesha is present in our mind, we may not suffer. We may not be currently suffering, even if we're carrying asmita. Because if the things the things that we are identifying with externally are positive in the moment and they bring us a sense of esteem, then we're going to feel good. The flip side is that at any moment, those things can be taken away, they can disappear, they can fade, and then we're left with a void or confusion around who we are because we've enjoyed identifying with something that was beyond Purusha. So if someone is vital, has a lot of vitality, and they have a lot of wealth, and they have a lot of status, hey Meg, and they identify their sense of self, they get their worth and their esteem, and their ego is filled up from those things, and they then lose their job, maybe they lose their partner, they lose their health, then what? Then there's an identity crisis in addition to losing those things. Meg asks, what are the unchanging things about ourselves that we can identify with? This requires, in my experience, Meg, a lot of reflection, stillness, and solitude. So for me, an example of that would be to go into nature, experience solitude and silence, and to start to peel away the things that aren't Purusha, and then see what I'm left with. So here's an experiment, and you can join me right now in this experiment, or you can watch this video later when you have a moment to sit in some silence or some stillness. And I invite you to close your eyes for this activity. It'll be brief, a little meditation that you can use to help with this connection to Purusha and clearing away the rest. So find a comfortable seat or lying down posture, and close your eyes if you're comfortable, or soften your gaze. Once you settle in to your body and into your breath, I invite you to imagine that you are in a place where you feel incredibly safe, at peace, and comfortable. It can be a place that exists or a made-up place, inside or outside. And take in all the senses around you. What do you see and smell and hear and feel? And in this place, welcome an awareness of your own physical presence, the state of your body, your health, your physical attributes, personality qualities. And then invite into this space, hey Peter, invite into this space those that you love, friends, family, peers, coworkers, students, teachers. Invite all of those people in your life to join you in this space. And as you invite all of those people to join you in this space, also welcome your profession and welcome all of your hobbies. Welcome your talents. So that you're surrounded by the things and the people and the behaviors that you love and adore, the things that make you you, and soak up and savor this sharing of space with all of these things and all of these people. Take a deep breath and let it go. Now I invite you to envision that these things begin to disappear. First, your profession goes, and your hobbies and your skills, your talents. And then you watch your coworkers walk away, and your teachers or students or friends. And then your family walks away. Partners, loved ones. So you're in this space now, solely with your body present in this space. And then your health fades. And even your physical body dissipates. So that the only thing that's left is a conscious awareness experiencing the moment. That thing you're left with, that's what you can identify with. That will never change. The presence that is conscious, the witness of experience, the one that's alive and perceiving reality. That's what we can identify with as Purusha, as unchanging. And notice how that feels to connect to that unobstructed, untethered consciousness. And then whenever you're ready, open your eyes if you close them. That is the unchanging part of me as I have come to understand it. And all of the other things are layers on top that I get to enjoy. So is it a bad thing to feel good about yourself when you accomplish things? Is it a bad thing to feel good about yourself when you're attractive or healthy or strong or capable? Is that a bad thing? No. No, enjoy those qualities that are Prakriti and keep in mind that they're Prakriti. How cool that I can enjoy youth and vitality while I have it. What an awesome thing to celebrate and to be grateful for. What an awesome thing to celebrate when I accomplish something I'm proud of. I can allow that to soak in because I am having a Prakriti experience. I'm not just Purusha. I am Purusha having this Prakriti experience. So I want to enjoy and savor and indulge and experience all of that juicy goodness. Relationships are so rich and they fill our experiences. Yet, because they're Prakriti, we know that they will change. So we can hold on to these experiences where we treasure and hold them lightly. Hey, Peter. So to me, this is how I find an understanding of ego that is supportive of my yoga practice and stays at bay as an obstruction. So asmita, identifying with things that are Prakriti, defining who I am, getting my value from things outside of myself, the only reason that will cause me suffering is because it is guaranteed that those things will not remain constant. So I am at risk of having my sense of self crumble when those things change. And in my experience, the way that I know that I'm holding those things lightly is how I respond when they do change. So if you're an able-bodied person with a strong yoga practice and you experience an injury and you're unable to move the way you used to, and your practice becomes internal instead of external, that experience that you have of essentially losing that physicality, how you respond to that, to me, is an indication of the relationship that you had with those qualities. And if you were over identifying them as who you are, then you'll experience more suffering than you would if you were holding it more lightly. And this is something that's such a ever evolving, continuous process. I have a hard time separating myself from accomplishments, and especially accomplishments that bring me praise or lack thereof. I am super praise driven. I get a lot of my sense of self from doing the right thing. That's where asmita shows up for me the most. Is I have imprints in my psyche based on how I was raised and my nature that I am good and valuable when I do the right thing, and I get affirmed by the world around me that I'm doing the right thing. Then I feel good about myself, and I have a sense of esteem and worthiness. And when I perceive that I have done the wrong thing or disappointed, then I feel worthless. And that huge disparity between experiences of being praised for doing a good thing and feeling full of shame and worthless for doing the not right thing, to me is a huge indicator that I identify who I am by some measure of righteousness or perceived righteousness and approval from the world. Because that's what I get my idea of righteousness from, is when other people tell me I'm doing a great job, when the vast majority of people affirm that what I did was good, then I feel good. Without that affirmation, I question and I worry that perhaps I'm missing the mark. And if I'm missing the mark, then where's my value? So that's a huge indicator to me, which has been a really cool practice, a really cool exercise of doing Sunday Sutras. Like, I show up in my backyard and I talk to a camera, essentially. Some of you show up live. Hey, Bruce. And that's awesome. So I feel like I'm not totally alone, but essentially I'm here in my backyard talking to a camera for about 30 minutes. And I have no idea what the receiving end will be like. I don't know how people will be impacted. I am not sure exactly how this will resonate with others. But what I do know is that my heart drives me to share these things. And if I can stay in this place where, because I feel compelled inside of my being, deep inside of my being, I feel compelled to share. If I give myself permission to share without condition of how well it's received or if it's perceived the way I want it to be or whatever, that I get to enjoy that I have a platform and the technology and the voice and the experience and the courage to share in this capacity. And then I get to let that be what fills me up, that I get to share, and not the response or the lack thereof that I receive. So that's a really good practice for me. For you, it may be more physical. Perhaps it's, when you feel beautiful, then you have a good day. And when you don't feel beautiful, you have a crappy day. What are you identifying? What are you over-identifying with that's bringing that level of suffering when things on the outside aren't going the way that you want them to, right? So that would be my invitation to you, is to check in when you find yourself experiencing some level of suffering, to spend some time in reflection, whether that's meditation or a walk or surfing or riding your bike or whatever, going for a run, where you can experience a little bit of solitude, less noise, right? Less sensory input, and more connection. Hey, Hannah. And in doing that, in allowing for that space and that stillness, that you can inquire about what it is that you define yourself by. And then you can start to question each of those things. Is this changing? Will this quality at some point change? Like right now I'm a mother. That is Prakriti. That changes. The dynamic of my experience of motherhood changes as my child ages. And life isn't forever either. So motherhood itself is a changing role. So if I over-identify who Kelsey is as I'm Thea's mom, then as that reality changes, I'll experience a lot more suffering or discomfort in that evolving. Right now I'm a partner to Dan. That is Prakriti. So I can soak that up and I can enjoy that without it being who I am. And I got to test that. I've had a lot of opportunities where things have been pulled out from underneath me. And it was like someone turned the light on to let me know, whoa, you identified who you were with that relationship you were in. And now you feel like the boat is rocked. Or things have been removed and I've had a lot smoother transition, like jobs. I don't personally tend to identify a whole lot with the job that I have, but for a lot of us, that's a huge sense of self. It's like, I am a nurse. I am a fill in the blank, right? And yes, you fill that role. Yes, that is a quality that you currently have. And it's a changing thing, so hold it lightly. I hope that provides some clarity so that this word ego in and of itself is not bad or shameful. To have ego is to have a sense of self that is distinguishable from the rest of the world. I am Kelsey Delane. I have these qualities. Cool. That gives me the right to show up and have a voice and make an impact and take action. Our third chakra is where we house this right to take action and a sense of who we are as a distinct feature of the world. And that can be a beautiful thing. So ego itself is not a friend or a foe. It's how we relate to it. I'm getting a tickle in my throat. Hold on. Woo! We're almost out of time anyway. So I'm going to take this as my cue to go drink some water. Have a beautiful Sunday. Please share and like this video so that other people can join. I'll see you next time. Much love.